Okay, so your tertiary source is something that's a little farther removed from your primary and secondary source. Your primary source is your story. Your secondary source is a commentary on the story or the author. And then the tertiary source talks about more broader literary concepts. Again, you'll need at least one tertiary source. So the easiest way to find a tertiary source is not to Google. Google will lead you into a morass of dead ends that you're going to get frustrated trying to negotiate. The best way to find a tertiary source is to go to the library databases and choose EBSCOhost. We'll be talking about this in the forums this week, and I'll try to help you through this, although again I understand that you've already been exposed to this and have at least a pretty good handle on it in English 1A or freshman composition, wherever you had that. But here's an example. Let's say I'm writing on Ernest Hemingway's Old Man Hills Like White Elephants, which is in your textbook. That's my primary source. And I've collected some biographical information from my secondary source, which is still the textbook. And I need a third thing. Well, I know setting is one of the elements that we've been talking about all during this unit. So I know because I've studied the story, I know that setting is pretty important in that story. In fact, I would say it's essential in that story. So I'm going to go to EBSCOhost, and I'm going to put in the search engine setting and Hemingway. I join up the two search terms, setting, Hemingway, and I join them with the connector and. Remember, the computer's a stupid machine. It only knows three words: and, or, not. And then here's something to remember. I'm going to click full text along the left-hand side of the screen there. You're going to see it says limit to full text. Be sure that you click full text, otherwise you're going to be led into a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily will not be able to use. So I do that, and I click open. I click search, and you notice down the second article is called Take a Trip into the Heart of Hemingway's Spain. Now look at the bottom of that entry. You'll see it's an HTML version. You want to pick an HTML if you've got it, and I'll show you why in a moment. So if you're with me on that page, you open that article by clicking on the title, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and when the article gets opened, the reason to pick the HTML version if you've got it is, look, the very first line: creating an evocative sense of place can draw readers straight into the pages of a book. Ernest Hemingway's novels are known for their settings so vivid that readers can easily imagine, and so forth, and so forth, and on it goes. Notice that your search terms are bolded for you in the HTML version. You can go right to where it mentions your search term. You can copy and paste that quote. You can figure out how to work it into your paper, and you can cite it easily. I mean, basically, I'm done. I would copy that first line, I'd keep it aside in a file, and I'd figure out some way to work it into my paper in the introduction to my section on this story. Now, what you can't do, unfortunately, is the citation functions over on the right. The MLA, the APA citation is just fine. You can use it if you're using APA formatting, but if you're using MLA, EBSCOhost has not been updated yet. So the only tricky thing is you will have to either click the detailed record over on the left that you see there, or you figure out what kind of a source you're looking at. So I'm going to click the detailed record, and I can see the authors. The source apparently is a magazine called Writer. If you see it there, Writer is the name of the magazine. It's an article in the magazine. And and it's on page 8 and 9. If you notice, when you look at the source, you see all that information: publication date, volume, issue number, page 8 and 9. That, and then the name of the writer. So you're going to have to do that manually right now because the automatic citation buttons don't work. By the way, EasyBib and those things also going to mess you up. So this part you're going to have to do by hand, and we'll work on that this week. But all your information is right there. And then all you got to do is get your quote. Notice what kind of a source you're looking at, and almost always on EBSCOhost they're magazines of some kind. Although not always, but 98% of the time. Then you just, keep your article open while you massage the information and get it into the right source. So that's your tertiary source, talking about theme in Hemingway's novels. If you can't find something about theme in Hemingway, then search broader for theme in literature. Just go as broad, use your brains, go as broad as you can until you start finding stuff, and then find something to use. It's not as complicated as it sounds. In fact, it's really intuitive once you kind of develop these skills. Okay, so that's a tertiary source. You need one primary source, one secondary source, and one tertiary source, at least, and you can, or 3 of each of those. You can figure out how many you need, and if you're doing 3 stories, you need 1 of each for each story, so you need a total of 9. If you're doing 1 story but 3 elements, you'd only have 1 primary source and probably 1 secondary source, but you're going to have 3 tertiary sources. So again, this is intuitive and it makes a fair amount of common sense, except that it's tedious, and I totally get that. So we'll be working on the tertiary stuff in the forums this week, and we'll try to help each other get through this. Okay, bye.